Hi, everybody. It is February 19, 2019. There are times when I feel so incredibly frustrating that I just don't have the ability, don't have the hardware, the computer, the know-how to do those videos that could capture the attention of millions. Oh, wait, there are so many on YouTube that do have all of that, and they sure do post incredible videos. So how is it that we can't get through to so many people? Mainstream media has become dangerous. Mainstream media, well, it hasn't just become dangerous. They have been dangerous for decades. They lie to us repeatedly. And in the face of mountains of evidence that what I just said is true, we still can't get people off mainstream media. They're addicted to it. They're addicted to the lie. They love the lie. I don't understand it, but I just another um, well-respected investigative journalist has come out and spoken the truth about mainstream media, which I'll get to in a moment. But I just want to remind you of all of the other journalists who have said things like this.
Well, I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and I was educated to lie, to betray, and not to tell the truth to the public. But seeing right now, within the last months, how far how the German and American media tries to bring war to the people in Europe, to bring war to Russia. This is a point of no return, and I'm going to stand up and say it is not right what I have done in the past, to manipulate people, to make propaganda against Russia, and it is not right what my colleagues do and have done in the past, because they are bribed to betray the people, not only in Germany, all over Europe. The reason writing this book was that I am very fearful of a new war in Europe, and I don't like to have this situation again, because war is never coming from itself. There is always people behind it to push for war. And this is not only politicians, this is journalists too. And I just have written in the book how we have betrayed in the past our readers just to...
Okay, so I will link below. If you have not seen any of these videos, click on the link and watch them. And he talks about how the CIA controls virtually all media, certainly in Western countries, and how the CIA bribes these journalists to lie. To lie. And if I'm not mistaken, this journalist is now dead. Ulfkotte. Udo Ulfkotte, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. I believe he had a heart attack. Don't quote me on that. So many journalists have had heart attacks, like, hey, Breitbart. Sharyl Attkisson, CBS.
Say you're watching the news and you see a story about a new study on the cholesterol-lowering drug called Cholextra. The study says Cholextra is so effective that doctors should consider prescribing it to adults and even children who don't yet have high cholesterol. Is it too good to be true? You're smart, you decide to do some of your own research. You do a Google search, you consult social media, Facebook and Twitter, you look at Wikipedia, WebMD, a nonprofit website, and you read the original study in a peer-reviewed published medical journal. It all confirms how effective Cholextra is. You do run across a few negative comments and a potential link to cancer, but you dismiss that because medical experts call the cancer link a myth and say that those who think there is a link there are quacks and cranks and nuts. Finally, you learned that your own doctor recently attended a medical seminar. The lecture that he attended confirmed how effective Cholextra is, so he sends you off with some free samples and a prescription. You've really done your homework. But what if all isn't as it seems? What if the reality you found was false? A carefully constructed narrative by unseen special interests designed to manipulate your opinion.
And what if that was true over and over and over again on virtually all news that is published by mainstream media? Wouldn't that make you walk away from mainstream media? These journalists have. Sharyl Attkisson has. She was a CBS investigative journalist. How about Amber Lyons?
We're here to go over a topic of censorship and truth.
Amber Lyon. Sorry, not Lyons. Lyon.
In media, I'm joined now by investigative journalist and former CNN reporter Amber Lyon. Amazing to have you on, Amber.
Thank you, Abby, so much for having me. It's an honor.
So, Amber, you famously left CNN after working there for years, citing reasons of censorship. Can you talk about what happened with your documentary that you filmed in Bahrain for the network?
Yeah, we produced this documentary exposing that this Bahrain regime, the regime the United States had been supporting financially and with weapons, that this same regime was actually even using some of those weapons to torture and murder its people. And after we produced this documentary, we were told by CNN International that the documentary wasn't going to air. And we were given almost no explanation, Abby, as to why they chose not to air this documentary. And after further investigation, we found out that Bahrain was a paying customer at the network, at CNN, that Bahrain and several other pro-United States regimes worldwide are actually paying CNN to produce positive content and fake documentaries about them, which I consider to be infomercials for dictators. And I think that CNN sprinkles this into their programming with little or no disclosure to viewers and their own journalists, and it's really defrauding viewers and really misleading people, Abby.
That is fascinating, Amber. What I find most interesting is that every time I talk about self-censorship to people like Piers Morgan or Bob Garfield on NPR, they are all shocked. They're like, what are you talking about? We never self-censor. I mean, do you think that this is a big issue in the press today?
It's a tremendously big issue, Abby. A lot of the muckraking journalists have actually had to leave the mainstream, including myself, because we just can't do our jobs on these networks because there is so much censorship. In 10 years of working in the mainstream, I was censored on stories at every single one of my jobs, whether that be to please corporate interests or the story was censored to please the United States government. So this is a chronic problem that's really destroying journalism in the United States, and people really need to understand when you're watching the mainstream media, you're not getting the accurate picture. A lot of the journalists have been turned into lapdogs versus watchdogs because that's what management wants.
Right. I mean,
Okay. Now we have this guy. You know, it is really, it's just incomprehensible that we still have Americans watching mainstream media. Writer touted by CNN as Journalist of the Year forced to resign for fabricating stories. An award-winning journalist from the German magazine Der Spiegel revealed he made up many articles. Made it all up. How do you know what's real and what's not? How do you know what is the truth and what is made up or what is an abject lie? So, Lara Logan has broken ranks, and there's a 3-hour interview that I watched about an hour and a half of, and she talks about her upbringing in South Africa and how she became, you know, she always wanted to be a writer even as a kid, and, you know, became this investigative journalist. And I have to say, she was very good at her job, well respected, got, I'm not sure if she's still with CBS 60 Minutes, but after this interview, I'm sure she won't be. It's unfortunate, and I've got to say this because I'm sure that there'll be a lot of comments about those breasts. And it looks like she got breast implants. And I'm really sorry that she decided to give this interview, with such a low cut, because you know what? It does. It takes away from the professionalism. And, yeah, and I know I'm going to get flack for this, but why? What's the point there? All right. So you do get a little distracted by this cleavage that's staring in your face while you're listening to somebody who is a well-respected investigative journalist who is, well, in her own words, committing professional suicide by what she has had to say. So while you're watching this interview, those of you who do decide, don't get distracted. I'm committing professional suicide. Mostly liberal journalists are now political activists. So I want to read some of what she says during this interview. The media everywhere is mostly liberal, not just the United States, adding that it was nearly impossible for viewers to decipher if they were being told the truth at any given time. 85% of journalists are registered Democrats. That's what she said. And went on to say, how do you know you're being lied to? How do you know you're being manipulated? How do you know there's something not right with the coverage? When they simplify it all and there's no gray. It's all one way. Well, life isn't like that. If it doesn't match real life, it's probably not. Something's wrong. For example, all the coverage on Trump all the time is negative. That's a distortion of the way things go in real life. There's no gray. It's all one way. She said that the heavy bias has warped people's ability to know what's really true. When you turn on your computer or you walk past the TV or you see a newspaper headline in the grocery store, if they're all saying the same thing, just like what Sharyl Attkisson was saying. You get it from WebMD, you get it from mainstream media, you're getting it from your doctor. When you hear it from so many different sources, you're hearing the exact same story, and it's very easy to get manipulated this way, you believe what you're hearing is true. How could it not be true with everybody saying the same thing? Well, Sharyl Attkisson is pointing out life is not what it seems. Mainstream media is not what it seems. So Lara Logan said, yeah, when you hear the same thing from so many different sources, you don't question it because everyone is saying it. But you need to question it because reporters now are script writers. That's it. They are script, did I say writers? No, script readers. That's all they do. They're not investigative journalists. They read the propaganda handed to them by government or corporations. That is what mainstream media has become. She admits that journalists today are more or less lobbyists for liberal interests, adding that the weight of the liberal media machine overwhelms the other side unless people actively seek out other sources like Breitbart. And I wouldn't even, well, look, it's red, blue, all right? So you have somebody who is an investigative journalist. She sees what's going on in mainstream media. She is talking about the truth, but awake is a misnomer. It's an awakening process. And in this interview, I'm listening to her, and she bought and still buys the official narrative of 9/11. And that is what is so like, okay, I believe, that this woman does have integrity. I believe that, she's her own person, even though, she's working for 60 Minutes. And she regards the truth as something important. And yet, she still has an awful lot of propaganda in her own head. She's still indoctrinated. So you hear Amber Lyons and other journalists who have come out and said, the Iraq War, and in fact, I think it's Amber Lyons or one of them, all we heard was weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. Over and over and over and over. They simplify it. They all say the same thing. It's drummed into your head and you believe it. You believe it. But then when the truth comes out that they were lying, how is it that an investigative journalist who actually did incredible reporting from Iraq and Afghanistan, Lara Logan, doesn't get that it was all lies? Now, I didn't listen to the full interview, so I need to say that as a caveat, that I may have gotten the wrong impression. I do need to listen to the whole thing. But based on hearing the inflection, the tone of voice, yeah, she believes that that it was Osama bin Laden that took out the World Trade Centers and the Pentagon, flew into the Pentagon, okay? Or so much unbelievable that people can see, the lies in one area, one facet of life, and then be blind in another. I just don't understand that. But she went on to say, although the media has historically always been left-leaning, we've abandoned our pretense, or at least the effort to be objective today. We've become political activists, and some could argue propagandists. And there's some merit to that. Well, you are propagandists now, and it's not just some merit, it is fact. She said, mainstream media reporters using anonymous or single government sources are bunk. That's not journalism, it's horseshit. Responsibility for fake news begins with us. She's absolutely right. For those who don't like cursing, well, you might want to skip this interview. It doesn't bother me, so. But I was sent this just a few minutes ago. I get it in my email. The Sacramento Bee caught. My God. Boy, I missed this article, and so did the subscribers who would have sent it to me if they had saw it. It's a disgrace. The Sacramento Bee's recent article titled, listen to this, Measles Outbreak May Spread to California. Doctors are warned, with risks of deafness, autism. So, yes, and I've posted videos on this. The recent weeks of the push to get everybody, all the kids vaccinated with the MMR, the measles outbreak, and oh my God, they always say that these outbreaks are caused by those who didn't get vaccinated, but how is it that the vaccinated crowd get the measles? Okay, all right. We need to really wake up in this country and begin to use our critical thinking and not be so lazy and, just listen to other people tell you. They call them experts. They're on mainstream media. Oh, it's a doctor, so he must be telling the truth. Wake up to all of the lies that are communicated 24/7 in this country. Yeah, it's very easy to buy off an American when all you value is money. Very easy to buy them off, get them up there to lie. But liars have no problem lying when everybody's lying, when they know that they're going to get support for those lies. And they know that those who tell the truth are going to get slammed. And that is our environment today. I would be so mortified if I were this journalist, Sacramento Bee. Now, I couldn't do what you will hear was done here. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. But if I did and I was caught, I would just want to hide. I would never want to show my face. That's the difference between, well, those who have a conscience and those who actually do experience embarrassment for things that they do, shame, feel ashamed, for behaving in ways that they know are wrong. We don't have a majority of the Americans who roll like that. But listen to this, my God, Sacramento Bee. Measles. They're saying that the measles cause deafness and autism. The Sacramento Bee, presented the public with the idea that there exists a risk of autism from the measles. In the opening paragraph of this article, it reads, health experts say measles can cause deafness and autism in its survivors. The article goes on to state measles have been proved to cause intellectual and neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism in children. Well, there was a author and medical research journalist, Neil Miller, who, called out the Sac Bee. And he commented, I'm used to reading vaccine propaganda, and usually there is a tenuous threat connected to the truth. But he said here that I knew right away this was not measles. I've done enough studies on measles and knew right away that the author was referencing something else. How did the Sacramento Bee make their autism measles connection? They cited valid data found by UC Davis researchers and the Mind Institute. When taking a deeper look at the article's cited linked research, it became clear that the Sac Bee completely and willfully misrepresented the Mind Institute's data. In the Mind Institute's original data, the researchers were referring to rubella, not measles. The Sac Bee took it upon themselves to create a false narrative by deceptively replacing the word rubella with measles. Is it? I guess so. It's evident. It's not possible. It is evident that mainstream media reporters can go this far to deceive their readers. They've got a measles outbreak. Let's claim that measles can cause deafness and neurodevelopmental disorders, autism, and that'll get the parents to vaccinate their children. Here is the Mind Institute statement on vaccines and autism. Rubella, rubella, rubella. This is the Sacramento Bee. Measles, measles, measles. Disease. Wow. I'm horrified that I live surrounded by so many liars. It is scary. So the author of the article, Kathy Anderson, and the outlet itself was contacted by Miller via email, pointing out the errors. When her errors were pointed out, Anderson decided to defend her position in her reply to Miller. And Miller states, I was absolutely astounded because it was clear that she didn't know anything about measles. She didn't know anything about rubella, probably knows very little about autism, and she's considered Sacramento Bee's health reporter. So Anderson's clarification in her article amounted to her removing the link to the original research, talking about rubella, not measles, effectively denying her readers access to the scientific truth for the sole purpose of protecting lies. This is mainstream media. It's so in our face. It is repulsive. It is disgusting. They all have an agenda. They're dangerous people. They present a danger to the American people. And you know what I've experienced? No matter how many times I tell those, and I have had this conversation about mainstream media, my God, I don't know how long. No one seems to care. No one seems to care. I had a friend, a professor, former professor in Great Barrington, who always, she was like addicted to CBS News. Very upset when they went to 6:30 instead of 6 o'clock. But Lara Logan, Sharyl Attkisson, all of these people, that's who she watched. And she regarded herself well informed by that 20 minutes of news that she got in that half-hour period. I think now it's like 18 or 17 minutes of news. She called me a conspiracy theorist. What should I do? Go to the internet to get my news? That was her response when I said, you know, you might want to consider that CBS, they may not be telling you really the truth about what's going on. What? Should I go to the internet, Carol? Like, that was something, you know, regarded as so stupid that one should be shamed by somebody with that kind of tone of voice. And I just looked at her and I was like, okay. These are educated people. These are the people who should be able to critically think. But no, a block. It's like an addiction. It's an addiction. No matter how much evidence, no matter how much comes to light, you're being lied to about vaccines. You're being lied to by mainstream media. There is an agenda to get everybody vaccinated, not just for profit, but also there's a depopulation agenda going on. And this is why reporters like this Kathy Anderson is absolutely, she is a danger to the public. That you can lie like this, it's outrageous. Everybody should be contacting Kathy Anderson. This woman should be fired and disgraced. She should be publicly shamed. she, her clarification is to take the site from that study out of the article. And then they made some other attempts, to rectify this outrageous lie that is so dangerous. And they really didn't do it, in the way that you would expect them to. No. In fact, the story was changed February 5 to correct the name of the virus that caused neurodevelopmental intellectual disabilities in children, cognitive issues in newborns, and caused a 1964 epidemic. The illness was rubella, a virus that causes similar but less severe symptoms than measles. Rubella has been linked to autism. Even in the SAC-B's attached editor's note correction, there are more lies. A quick search using the Internet Archive tool, the Wayback Machine, which catalogs all websites, addresses, and changes on a dated timeline, shows that as of February 11, the SAC-B article's Rubella Measles Lie, and its title still remained the same. Here, after a final email from Miller in which he attached the studies Anderson was misrepresenting, Anderson and the SAC-B finally corrected their article a full 9 days after it was published. The title now reads, "Measles Outbreak May Spread to California from Other States. Doctors Are Warned." And then there was the editor's note that I just read. The Wayback Machine logged changes to the SAC-B article. The February 5 correction date cited by Anderson in the SAC-B was yet another lie. Anderson in the SAC-B's article still opens with the false sentence linking measles to autism by stating California's public health officials are alerting doctors and other medical providers to be on the lookout for measles after first New York State and now nearby Washington State wrestle with a wily virus that health experts say can cause deafness and potentially autism in its survivors. Willfully deceitful media outlets, simplistic talking points, willful lies, caught in near real time by educated readers and viewers, and yet they still lie over and over and over again. Okay? Everybody should be outraged. Everybody should be really upset. These lies, oh my God. And it's, look, I am particularly sensitive to lying. I will tell you. Why am I alone? Because I couldn't find one person, friends, who would not lie. Now, if people lie, look, people lie, all right? But just take a look and ask yourself, why do you need to lie? Because I so desperately wanted a friend I could trust. Not one out there. We've got something very wrong going on here in our country. The acceptance of lies and Americans lying. And I am sick of it. Because you are then left with absolutely nothing. And the acceptance of lies and lying, every person who does that renders life meaningless. And I really need life to mean something. All links are below.